Hey everyone, welcome to Off Shelf Books. Once again, joined by Nathan and Tom. Guys, wow, so glad that we can get together. We're going to be talking a little bit about social media. Okay, Tom, you're probably the least involved in social media. I don't think you have anything. You don't have a Facebook or...
Well, here, I'll start because I'm the easiest one, but kind of let's talk about our social media presence right now. 2 or 3 years ago, I actually deleted my Facebook account, and I haven't got on this Instagram, or I haven't done any of that.
Yeah, that's just it. I don't think you have
He's
anything.
so out of the loop, man. I'm telling you.
Maybe that's a good thing.
Maybe.
Well, I'll provide an interesting version, or at least idea, into this conversation.
Okay, so even though you're not really actively involved on social media, you can tell it's having quite a influence on basically everything. It's like our culture and how we just view the world. And where does that play in someone's faith? Because we're in the world, but not of the world. But for someone's faith, what role does social media play? Is there a proper balance? I don't know.
Well, I guess it really comes down to what you consider the role of social media to be. Like,
it's morphed. It's changed so much.
I mean, I did have, going back, there was a time where I was more into the Facebook. I mean, I remember there was a while there, I actually was one of those people that was on anywhere from 4 to 8 times a week kind of thing on a consistent basis. The people that were on Facebook and I was playing their stupid games, I held out on the game thing until probably very close to the end of my Facebook career, if we want to call it that.
A short-lived one of what just
Very
a
short-lived.
couple years.
I would say I was only involved in the gaming scene on Facebook for maybe a year.
Yeah, Tom's kind of in the weird sphere now where, like how it kind of used to be, like if you want to find out what's going on with Tom, you actually got to text him or call him. You can't just go on Facebook and see all the pictures and go, oh, okay, I know what's going on.
Well, I'm sure he's a Candy Crush expert.
Oh, yeah. I can believe that.
I did not play Candy Crush.
No, what
that
about
was
Angry Birds?
actually not my game. And
What about Angry Birds?
again, not my game.
What?
What games did you play?
I forget what games, what Facebook game. Like, don't get me wrong, I have played Angry Birds.
Okay, well then you're not totally hopeless. But.
And I did actually try Candy Crush, but I was just like, yeah.
Oh, come on, man.
No, so I was doing other games, which I can't even remember, but so that's how memorable they are. But I was just like, I was not one of those people that really used it for that initially. I was, oh, hey, what's going on with this person? Or I was, one of those people that actually tried to reconnect with some other people or see what was going on with other people that was away from my past, or even to connect with friends. Then I kind of got to the point where I wasn't checking Facebook anymore until there was a couple years, though. I was like, yeah, you could tell when I checked Facebook because it was around my birthday so that I could thank everyone who wished me a happy birthday.
Oh, it's good for that. It's good for helping us all remember birthdays, right?
Yeah, which thinking is, you sound like, oh yeah, I remembered your birthday. No, it was Facebook that reminded you. You're not, you're not a real friend if you don't truly remember someone's birthday unless you need Facebook to remind you.
Well, now I have a way for that.
Well, and now it's so crazy how much social media has morphed. Like in the last, Facebook came out in 2004, 2005, I think, right? Initially it was kind of like a place where people could share memories and status updates and post about their personal life or whatever, right? Like that's kind of, I think, how it started. But now social media has kind of moved into the mainstream, where all the big, it's everybody. It's not just individuals. It's media, it's big influencers, big industry. Like everyone is drinking the same Kool-Aid now, probably to one degree or another, across Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and
I think you're right. I think it's turned a lot of people into influencers and even journalists. Yeah, it's morphed so much. I remember I actually didn't jump on till like 2007, and even then I actually really liked it. It's like, this is a great platform just to communicate, just typing. But now it's weird. It's now turned a lot of us into self-promoters.
Yeah, and it's having a big, I think it's having also a big effect on our psychological well-being. Like, I mean, I've done a lot of reading on, like, in documentaries just about how not just our generation, but the up and coming generation, like they're like almost like their well-being is being tied to how many likes they got on a status update. So like they posted a photo, right? And then, oh, I didn't get any likes or I didn't get any comments. So sometimes you'll see people that have, it's like, oh, that one didn't get traction, so I'm going to delete it. And then I'm going to try and get something that does get traction, right? People jump on that and they're basing their either, maybe not their self-worth, but they're definitely basing their confidence to a degree off of social media. And that's kind of crazy.
So what is it doing to Christians?
Probably a lot of the same thing, I think. I mean, it's the good and bad of tech, right? Like social media has, I think it's helped to bring people together. And if we're especially talking about believers, I mean, I can give you one example. There's a group on there called One Church, but it's this Facebook page on Facebook that is supposed to bring believers from every denomination, try and bring them together and unite together around common purposes in faith. And that, I will say, has been a very cool thing to watch. I mean, you got people from Baptist churches going in there. You got people that are Roman Catholic. You got people that are Presbyterian. You got people that are Orthodox. It's very cool to see this sort of movement that's uniting around, common purpose and faith. So I would say that's a very positive and very cool thing, because like it's connecting people that probably otherwise in real life they would not be meeting. Not necessarily. I mean, I guess they still could, but slim chance.
Yeah.
So I think that's one positive thing.
Yeah, I just can't believe we live in a world now where you can make a website about yourself. If you were to tell me that's what the future would be, I'd be like, what?
And people are making an entire living off this stuff, right? Like they're making their own website. Or there's these people that big influences and they got 40 million followers on there, and they're like their whole living, like everything they do is based off of all the traction they're getting on the social media site, and then the paid advertisements come up, so then they get a pile of advertising revenue because they got so many figures. It's crazy. Like it's just a whole new career in a way.
Well, it's just like, when did you ever hear someone like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? You're starting to hear people like, I want to be an influencer. And I'm like, what does that even like entail? Like, no one knows what's going to happen, right? And part of the problem is, I think there's also a bit of a stability thing with it as well, that because people don't know how long they can sustain a career doing these things. Like, I think it depends on really what you're doing, like how you're trying to influence, right? Like if you're doing something, for instance, if you're more into like the maker space, well, that's a lot easier to have a stable thing, because then it's all about what you do and how you're doing things and the different things that are coming out and stuff like that. Whereas, oh, this is me and this is what I'm doing, and oh, I like this brand, and like the fact that we have people that are literally like documenting their daily life, putting it on the internet and making a lot of money off of it. It's like, oh, we privatized soap operas.
And that you're not wrong. And but I think between the two subgroups of influencers these days, like people that are trying to kind of talk about their lives, right? I think they have a huge challenge, because they, over time, initially, they'll be able to provide their audiences with a lot of content, like a lot about their life. But I mean, if you're just taking videos of your life, you're posting statuses about your life, eventually you're going to have a creativity problem, because you're going to start running up against like, okay, I've covered like 700 different things. I mean, what else am I going to talk about now? But people that, let's say they got those big influences on there that are showcasing products. So let's say the latest Android phone, right? The latest Samsung or like whatever.
The new infomercials.
Yeah. And those people, like those people can probably stay relevant because they're showcasing new tech, right? And in a lot of cases, those big accounts, like the big influencers, these companies are shipping them like these phones, like $2,000 phones to them for free. It's like, okay, you try out the product and give us a video.
Yeah.
Like the $2,000 phone. It's just like, oh yeah, here, use it for a week, and
it's
then give
just-
us our like your thought.
And it's just like, how do people mentally deal with that? But I kind of have a question for you guys, because I can't really speak to this. How does social media affect your daily lives, or or at least affect your lives in any capacity?
Well, over the past 10 years or so, I've done mission trips, and just without asking for it, you just make a lot of Facebook friends, and that's probably one of the last reasons that was keeping me on social media, was to stay in touch with a lot of my friends from overseas. That was the one platform. There's several times I personally want to leave, and I'm still hanging on by a thread. I think there's, aside from being on a few specific groups, that is all that's keeping me on now. Because if you want to call YouTube part of social media, it's weird. I've completely navigated from Facebook now to YouTube, even though it's not really meant to be a communicative tool. But I think now a lot of my time it's replaced my television. Sad to say. Really, I just watch TV for live sports. That's it. Other than that, I don't watch much movies or TV shows. YouTube has kind of replaced my programming in a weird way. So it's weird. I've walked away from one platform that consumed a lot of my time, but now I'm on another platform that is consuming quite a bit as well. So thankfully, I'm not dived into all these different eggs like now. Tom, have you heard of TikTok?
Yes.
Yeah.
TikTok's like the latest craze for the young people, right?
So
like for teenagers.
Honestly, I don't necessarily understand what the difference between YouTube and TikTok is.
Well, TikTok is like short little videos that people post like in a social media format.
Well, it's short form videos. They're more vertical videos, and there's more of a music component to it. So it's similar but different.
Facebook has kind of gone more the way of TikTok. There's, slowly introducing more of that videos and a whole bunch of mixed content. But yeah, I would say the one concern for me for social media, I guess I should first speak to daily use. Definitely, I'm pretty active. I'm pretty active every day. Probably consumes a little bit too much of my time. Probably could put it down more. And social media is such a funny thing. Like if you cut yourself off from it. So let's say you take everyone's done probably at some point. They've done like a week-long fast from Facebook, or a week-long fast, or a month-long fast from whatever. And then sometimes you might have a bit of anxiety. It's like, like so much, I'm missing so much stuff. I'm missing so many videos. I'm missing so many status updates. What's going on? But then like you come back like a week or month later, it's like, oh yeah, not a lot changed.
Have you been reading less books?
Yeah, I would say probably reading less books because I'm reading status updates.
I'd like to ask you, Tom, like you're the one that now out of the three of us spends the least amount of time, if not really any time on social media. What kind of effect has that had on your day-to-day life?
Well, okay, so first I guess I have to clarify, is YouTube considered social media or not?
If you reach a certain subscriber mark, you have the ability to do community posts, and that is where it's more of a social media component. You can actually, it's almost like posting a status, you could say, and people can comment on it, like, dislike. So it is in some ways kind of a social media platform, obviously still mainly video publishing.
More content site than, at least at the moment.
Yeah, but there's
Still
definitely
content.
a community component, because any video you publish, everyone has the freedom to comment on it, no different than commenting on a status. So it is, I would consider it an element of social media in that realm.
Okay, well, in that case, I guess I have to clarify then. I am a consumer of YouTube. I don't think I've commented on even 5 videos. And until recently, I wasn't subscribed to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as a community aspect, I don't really see that as something in YouTube, at least not for me. But see, and YouTube is also a different thing, like, because you could say that the effect that you have with Facebook and all these other things, it depends on how you use them. Like Nathan said, if people want to talk to me, guess what? You have to email me, text me, or phone me, because otherwise I ain't talking to you.
So like Nathan was saying how he's read less books because of his time on social media. Have you been able to read more books because you're not spending too much time on it on social media?
Social media was never something that really affected how many books I read. The way that I consume YouTube and Facebook, it's similar because the way I consume it does not necessarily take up any of my personal time, or at least the amount of time I specifically give myself to spend on things like reading books or anything like that doesn't necessarily get affected by it. It was always like an entertainment portion. So it was just like, yeah, I have this much time slated for entertainment, but it was either like that was specifically for visual entertainment, if that makes any sense. So it was like, okay, well, no, like the amount of social media I was ingesting affected how much TV I was watching, not necessarily how many books I was reading. But I think like going through that, like kind of getting back to what is social media a good thing for faith or a bad thing for faith? Is social media having a positive impact on your faith journey, or is it having a negative impact on your faith journey? And I don't see very often that it would be having a positive impact on the faith journey. Now, saying that, the three of us seem to have very similar ways of looking at social media, at least in some aspects, because none of us is, I would say, a super user or even close to a super user of social media.
Not a super user, but I would say I'm pretty warm. I'm on all that stuff, and it's I'll disagree with you a little bit. I mean, I think I gave a good example about the positive reach it can have, right? Like with the One Church movement, like seeing people from all over the place, even posting prayer requests. They're posting prayer for their family. They're letting us know about different causes around the city. A church that you probably never would have heard of or never even would have gone into is hosting or doing something and looking for resources or help. I think that part of things is really cool.
And I don't necessarily disagree with you there, but that is, so the way I look at it is social media has different layers.
That's why I got to get Facebook again. So you can keep up on all these trends,
Well, but there's, because the way that I look at it is, there's social media that is on the personal level. And then there's social media that is on, I don't know how to describe it other than like a business level.
No, that's where LinkedIn would come in. You ever heard of LinkedIn?
Yeah, I actually have a LinkedIn account.
Okay, all right. So he's not totally hopeless.
So how do you add someone?
I don't know. I haven't been on my LinkedIn account for a long time. I typically have it to make sure that I don't miss anything for work.
No, LinkedIn is pretty. Yeah, you're right. LinkedIn is the business end of things, and more like where organizations go to post more formal stuff about what they're doing.
Yeah, and so.
Good to hear you at least have one account.
Well, the only reason I know what's going on with my LinkedIn account is because I keep on getting emails about it. But other than that, I wouldn't necessarily know what was going on. There are maybe organizational level is something that's better said for Facebook, because it's where things like organizations or businesses, like something that is beyond the personal, like because you can have personal and then you can have kind of like, certain groups that are like your family and stuff like that, and the group chat, like that to me is an extension of the personal, but you could kind of make it your own level. But then you start getting into the bigger area where you start to want to start influencing things, and that's where things like businesses want to get involved in and stuff like that. And so,
or even like an individual business, because if you got a Facebook profile, you can create your own page.
Like you can create a business page.
Yeah, you can create your own business page, or even just your own. You can create your own page for whatever the heck it is you want to champion or cause, right? And it operates out of the same account, like out of your Facebook account. You'll see if you have your own page you administer, you'll see it right there.
I think it's almost like reach versus response. I mean, the power that social media plays on reach is incredible. Like, let's face it, like that is absolutely incredible that someone's content can reach someone else on the other part of the world and change their life. But it's the response component. I think we get a lot of this reach, but do we actually respond, or do we just, that was a cute little thing I learned? Or it's almost like we consume too much rather than creating.
Well, yeah, and it's absolute information overload. Depending on what your uses are for social media, you have to narrow in on, because people use social media for so many different reasons, whether it's for business or personal or whatever political cause. In our case, maybe it's a faith-based cause, like whatever. If you're going to be a good user of social media, you have to drill down into 2 or 3 things that you're going to focus on, and then you have to leave it there, because there's simply too much out there. You know, you have billions of people post. Like, it's just nonstop.
Well, it's just like you also look at it as what is kind of the driving factor of what you're doing on social media. I mean, because, and this is why I asked, because from a personal perspective, is social media something that has no effect on your faith, has a positive effect on your faith, or has a negative effect on your faith? But then if you really want to go big picture, is social media promoting the church, defying the church, or has no effect on the church? And I would say that social media, specifically here in Western culture, at least how it feels like, is no, they're fighting the church. They don't want anything to do with the church, and they want to persecute the church.
I kind of almost just see it as, in some ways, it's social media is almost given too much power to too many people in a weird way. It's almost like when someone posts a status, I almost see that as the equivalent of someone going out on the street with a megaphone and saying that status, and everyone hears that status, and okay, they hear it. Do they respond? Maybe, maybe not. But then what if everyone has a megaphone and they're all just shouting their statuses at the same time? Do we even advance anything? Does anything get advanced?
The loudest megaphone wins.
It comes to that point, and who has the biggest tribe?
Yeah, and just I want to piggyback a little bit off of what you said. They have too much power, like, so, you know, social media companies having too much power. I think one of the problems that we're having, you know, especially in the Western world, democracies, anywhere, is the pace of, you could say, social media and or technology has so far outpaced the legislation and the laws that govern our digital spaces. We're still playing huge catch up. Like, there's so much of any social media platform that is unregulated. I mean, yeah, the company, they hire their moderators and they moderate the content or whatever, but they're truly not answerable to governing authorities. Like, I know it was in the news a while ago, in Australia, they were talking about, bringing on, some regulation, some laws and some regulations. I can't exactly remember which, totally particulars they were. But anyway, so Australian government was going to legislate these things to start legislating some of the digital space. Facebook fought back. They retaliated, and they said, oh, well, if this stuff gets passed, well, then certain content's not going to be, we might now be able to get certain content to you guys. And so basically trying to blackmail the government. And, but the Australian government was very firm. They withheld their ground. They didn't give in to intimidation. And I think that's just one example where big tech in a lot of ways is unregulated. Like, social media is unregulated, and that's a huge problem, because it's kind of creating a bit of a monopoly system. Facebook owns Instagram. Do they own TikTok, or is TikTok separate? I'm trying to remember.
I think TikTok is still separate, to my knowledge.
Well, wasn't TikTok out of China?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, but there you go. They control, basically all the users. It's crazy.
It comes down to the point where, are these companies getting to the point where they're more powerful than the government? And if they're more powerful than the government, and we have to start listening to them, well, are they our new authority over us that has been put there as per Christ? Because all of a sudden it's like, oh, do we have to start listening to this very small subset of people? I mean, granted, that has happened multiple times in the past with monarchies and stuff like that, but it's just like, it's in our purview, or what we know growing up. It's just like, well, we don't have to regulate our speech. We have something that we assumed, at least, that we had freedom of speech.
Well, yeah, this is turning into the information wars, the battle of what information does the majority of users consume. And that's a scary thing when, as Nathan pointed out, if there's only a few companies and they're almost are in cahoots, you would say, to a certain degree or more. And yeah, think that if you like something, you'll share it. If it fits your narrative, you'll share it. If it doesn't, you can silence it. And that's a kind of scary place to be in.
It doesn't leave a lot of room for like different opinions.
I mean, there are some alternative platforms. I think the unfortunate thing is we let these giants get too big, and they're there, but they're
like, there is the whole thing that YouTube is actually run at a deficit. YouTube does not make money, and it's the fact that the parent company pours, at least to my understanding, it's the parent company that doesn't want to shut it down because of how prevalent it is in society.
And Google makes so much money that they don't really care, to a certain degree, they don't even care how much that YouTube hemorrhages because they're so freaking big.
Well, it's kind of something to think about. Is the top site for videos is regulated by Google, and now they are very powerful.
Well, and to a certain degree, we all kind of fueled it. We all added content, like even myself adding content. I was one of millions and millions of people that helped fuel this machine.
we're all basically, what it is we're all sort of guilty, and we all drink out of the same Kool-Aid. That's basically what
Kool-Aid flavor do you like?
Oh, I guess I'd probably go blue, Yeah, what about you, Tom?
I'm not sure if I've had enough flavors to really comment on that.
I'm disappointed in your lack of
first
exposure
you don't have
to
social
Kool-Aid.
media.
Come on.
And now you're not drinking Kool-Aid.
He doesn't even know what kind of Kool-Aid. We got to get this guy current here. I might just have to start creating social media accounts for him.
Create a burner account.
Yeah. What you can do, anyone can do that. You can create fake accounts all the time, right? So
if I get canceled for something I say, well, that's on me. But really, I don't need to get canceled for something else.
Why not?
They'll cancel anything. They could cancel the Kool-Aid Man, like breaking through walls. Like that's like too much breaking of stuff.
We're gonna have a lot of unhappy people, though. I gotta tell you.
Well, honestly, if someone broke my wall, I'd probably be upset too.
Yeah, me too. It'd be awful.
Well, I don't think you have to worry. I don't think any of your walls are made out of bricks.
Well, no, but all the worse if it breaks through it. There's nothing to sustain this thing.
One thing I think I want to talk to you guys about is one thing that I find very interesting is the amount of entertainment that our society bases itself on now. And I think it has been on a meteoric rise over the last couple of years. And yet, looking at the fall of the Roman Empire, which, you might be interested in here, Nate.
Just maybe a little. Yeah.
I don't know if you know this fact, but I've done a little bit of research, and they say one of the reasons that contributed to the fall of the Roman Empire was the society was focused on entertainment and not on what was going on.
Well, and you're not wrong there. I mean, we are living in an age where being entertained, consumes so much time. I either want to go on YouTube, I want to go on Netflix and watch a movie, I want to, I don't want to think. People don't want to think. They just want to be entertained.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
And to a certain degree, that's okay. To a certain degree, it's okay to have times of being entertained, but it's becoming 24/7. The studies are coming out, like people are spending crazy amounts of time on, stuff like YouTube and Netflix, and it's pulling them away from the things that matter in life. Like it's pulling them away from their family. It's pulling them away from their relationships. And it's scary, really, for a culture because we're so fixated on, I need to be entertained. I need to be consuming content. Like I got to be consuming things. Right. And I don't know. It's not a good place to be.
That's just it. The Gospels only share so much of Jesus' life. He was 33 some years of age. So there's a lot of years that aren't covered. We get the most important stories of his life and death and resurrection, but I always wondered, like, Jesus in his spare time. I mean, we can safely assume he found time to clearly pray to God, but was he ever entertained? Like, I know there's no social media in that time, but there was forms of entertainment. I always wondered that. Not that I'm trying to make any point here. I do sometimes wonder, did Jesus, I mean, clearly the Sabbath was a time of rest, and I always wonder, what did Jesus do for entertainment? It's all speculation. We'll never know.
Yeah, because it only covers, the four Gospels really covers especially his last, his most active years. Like, they do have some stories about his childhood, but he spent a lot, in his spare time, he got away from everybody. He went, as you said, he went to pray, and that's what he did. You see it time and time again in the Gospels. Jesus went and prayed, right? Like, he went over to here and went and prayed, went over here and went and prayed. And I think that's something important that we as believers could take a much closer look at than probably most of us do, is we can take a break from all, because Jesus had a very busy ministry, right? Like, you look at the Gospels and the amount of crowds, the amount of times that he was speaking, right? Speaking his word and speaking all of his messages and everything like that would be taxing. I mean, he was God in human flesh, and
he was an influencer.
He was. And if you want to try apply 21st century social media to the ancient world, first century Judea, I would say their version of social media was word of mouth, because like you hear about just even the story of the 5,000, right? Feeding the 5,000, like how did all those people know that Jesus was going to be there speaking or whatever? His word, his message was spread word of mouth. That's how people found out about him, right?
Well, like, even you look at it, like, how hard is it to get to 5,000 followers or subscribers now?
It's not hard. If you're it shouldn't. It's probably tough if you're just one person. Well,
it's kind of one of these things where, from my understanding of it, like, the more followers or subscribers you have, the easier it is to get more. But getting that first set is not easy.
It's hard.
And then you think about it. You're talking about someone who does not have access to a global marketplace. It's a very local marketplace, and yet the amount of effort and time that he put in could be considered, like these influencers that are today, because they, like, YouTube influencer, you are working your butt off to get those followers. You are working your butt off to get there.
It's a full-time job, and you're constantly on the move until you can get successful. I guess, for someone who wants to be an influencer, like filming for a bit and then going like crazy on the computer, editing those videos, pushing the content out to the sites, and then always having to create new stuff all the time. The only way that influencers stay influencers is by staying relevant with new stuff all the time.
Well, and then you compare it to what's going on now. It's just like, okay, well, they were putting out, like, an influencer now has to put out information. Well, how did he influence people? He had to go and talk to this group of people, and then he had to go to talk to this group of people, and then he had to go talk to this group of people. I was like, dude, the guy must have talked, like, his tongue and mouth were probably like chiseled.
Well, and I think he was clearly actively involved with the people, and some people would argue, well, okay, that was back then, but no, the most recent example that comes to my mind is Mother Teresa. Didn't vie for any type of attention, just served in Calcutta, the sick, the poor.
And loved people.
And worldwide, she's known. Like, go figure.
Almost everybody has heard of Mother Teresa.
Absolutely.
Not everybody, but, a lot of people in the world have heard about Mother Teresa.
And I sometimes wonder, like, and the answer doesn't matter to me, but I've always wondered, if Jesus came into our world today, would he have a Facebook page? And I don't know.
Well, there's two things I want to talk about that. The first thing was, we can honestly say that Jesus had rock star status in the old world, because, like, the triumphal entry, dude, everybody threw a party for you just for showing up.
Well, yeah, and the miracles alone just immediately. That gets around pretty fast.
The miracles, and also too the other thing I think that also helped him with some traction was that Judea was under Roman occupation.
And everyone expected him to overthrow the Romans.
Well, yeah, overthrow the Romans, and life under Romans. Like, if you weren't a citizen, like if you weren't a Roman citizen living in the Roman Empire, your life could be pretty hard. At least if you were a citizen, you had certain rights, and the Romans respected those rights, like among their own citizens. Like, I mean, look at Apostle Paul. Paul was a Roman citizen. And he said something about, I'm a citizen, like I'm a Roman citizen.
Well, yeah, no,
right?
he got arrested, and because he was a citizen of Rome, he could go before, I don't know if it was the emperor or if it was a tribunal in Rome that...
For sentencing.
Yeah, so because he was a citizen, he's like, okay, well, I'm not going to... you guys don't have the authority to give me this. I can go and talk to this authority. Judea was such a rebellious province of Rome that at the end, Rome was like, why did we even conquer you? Because this is too much of a headache. But going to would Jesus have a Facebook page? And I'm like, well, Nathan said it's so impersonal. Jesus is all about one-on-one, like face-to-face. Because so much of his ministry was face-to-face. Like, even you have to look at it, so the Gospels are written by his apostles. Well, you never hear of Jesus writing a letter to somewhere to say, hey, this is what I want you to do. No. It was like, oh, they need me to go or they are failing over here. Okay, this is where I'm heading now. I find it so interesting that the letters to tell people about the faith came after he died. So... like I think this is the main problem that has come up with social media, is that social media is impersonal, and it's all about appearances.
Appearances which can either be true or false, and there's a lot of scams out there.
And Christianity doesn't care about appearances. I mean, we can go and take that from what Jesus wanted. It was like Jesus was like with the scum of society, so he didn't care how he looked. Like, he would have been ridiculed so badly for doing all that stuff that he didn't necessarily care. But it was that personal connection, and he didn't care how it looked. He went where he was needed, and I don't see any of that in social media. Social media, as used as a tool, can help Christians.
Yeah, it can help.
As a overall statement, I would say social media has done more to degrade people's faith and the perception of the church than it has even come close to helping.
Because we're obsessed with social media. Like, it sort of naturally, like if you're on it all the time, it sort of naturally makes you want to be relevant. You want to be front and center. You want to be center of attention. It's like a big selfie stick, taking a video going, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. Forever, look at me. Every day, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. And then it's self-defeating, because
why do we buy this stuff? Why do we eat this stuff?
Because we're drinking the wrong stuff, wrong
Kool-Aid.
Maybe the wrong Kool-Aid. It might be that purple, but it's like a broken pot, right? And you're trying to fill that pot with water, right? So you fill, you got the hole in the bottom of the pot, or a crack in the bottom of the pot, and you fill the pot up to the top. Come back an hour later and it's totally empty, and then you go and you fill it again, totally empty. Go it again, totally empty. So it's the same thing, I would say, with social media. It's a false, I don't know, what do you want to call it? It's an empty void of a need that's never going to be filled, because people have to find their fulfillment in God. They got to find their faith in the Lord. And if you seek after his kingdom, and you seek after Christ, and you seek after those things, I mean, yeah, you can still be on social media, but I think if you're really authentically walking in your faith, that you're not gonna look at the things of the world.
This shouldn't surprise us, though. If we believe that everything that's good comes from God, I mean, social media is no different. It falls under a bunch of other things that are good, but like what we're always great, humankind, we're the best at. We're our sinful nature. We're great at taking something good and twisting it at times for something evil. And it's no different to any other platform or medium. Like, it's not that social media is this big black sheep. I remember when it first came out, it was actually a really helpful tool. But like a lot of good things, we seem to mess it up.
And as a human race, we are so good at that.
We're the best. We're the absolute best.
We're absolute pros. When something good is introduced into our world, and slowly over time, because of men's corruption.
Like, I'll tell you what social media has done. It has created the bravest generation behind a computer screen. We are the bravest generation of keyboard warriors. Like, that's what we are.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, and you're not wrong. I mean, you're not wrong. Like, I mean, people say things on social media that they will never say in person. You know, let's say if you're having a debate with somebody online, or you're having a conversation, and let's say someone doesn't like what you say. If you were to go to that person and say, okay, you're talking about it, you know, you're talking about it on your status update, come to my house and tell that to me in person. Let's have a conversation.
The majority of the stuff they type, they would not say that to their face. I can almost promise
They wouldn't.
Though I totally agree with that. But there was one other thing that I wanted to mention about social media. And when it first came out.
But you're not on it.
Yeah, I know I'm not on it. But when social media first came out, the things that we consumed social media on, or we interacted with social media on, it was us and the machine. It wasn't very long, because like if you did it on your phone, and I know I'm dating myself when you had a phone that didn't have a camera in it, but it didn't take long for the phones to get cameras in them.
That was like the Stone Age, man.
Yeah.
That was like beyond Stone Age, you know?
Hey, I'm not that old. But how long after the rise of social media did you have whatever you consume social media on have a camera facing you? Why would we ever need a camera facing us?
It's for self-validation.
Is self-validation part of the Christian thing?
Not
No.
at all.
No, our validation comes from Jesus.
No, but in the world of today with social media, you go on something and all you ever see is picture perfect, right? Like you see the photos of people at the beach, right? They got a perfect life.
The rise of depression.
Yeah, we're in this day and age, our culture basically tells us be your own God. You're the master of your own universe, and no accountability to go with it either.
It's like you can portray yourself however you want, but if anybody starts finding out who you are, it's like, oh, my anxiety is through the roof. It's like, well, why do you care if people find out? Oh, you care because you're not the person you've betrayed? I mean, it's just like,
Yeah.
Here's the other sad fact. Because social media is so impersonal, as you have put it, how can people have relationships?
They can't have true relationships. I mean, they can communicate. Like
It's just not physical, not in person.
People can communicate, but the problem is, I mean, because we have so much social media now, right? Kids that are in high school right now, junior high, elementary, they think that, you know, going on Facebook Messenger and they're going to message one of their friends and they're going to talk to them for a few minutes. I'm not saying in all cases, but in a lot of ways, they think that that's relationship, like that's connection, right? And that's very scary because human beings, we're geared to be in community with each other. Like, I'm sorry, but Facebook Messenger, it's useful to the purpose of, oh, hey, like, how you doing? Do you want to come to this event or something? Like, you know, you're going to do that, or you're going to send a text or whatever. Somebody's like, that's very useful, right? Because you're messaging for very brief information. That's okay. But if you want to have a real conversation with somebody, either get on the phone or get them in person.
It's funny, it's social media, but I think it's more media and less social. It almost has come to that point.
Yeah.
Well, it's going back to the evolutionary standpoint of this. We are essentially a herd animal. We need to have social groups, right? Like, depending on how you want to put at it, but we're not like a cat. A cat is fine by itself. A dog wants to be around people. So it's just, we have that same evolutionary social requirement. And for the first time in human history, we are killing that. And it's just like, it makes me really wonder what is going to happen to the generations. Because if you can't start talking to the people around you, if something happens, if there's a fire, like this is got pointed out to me here a little while ago, is when we grew up, we knew our neighbors. And if something happened, we could go and knock on our neighbor's door and they would help us figure out what to do if our parents weren't around.
I don't know about you guys, but in our neighborhood, we actually left the garage door open and it was fine. Like, we could leave the garage door open overnight. And
Yeah, you can't do that anymore. And Tom, I can totally relate. Like when I was growing up in my parents' place, like we knew, like, I mean, if we're going, say on the block or my parents' house, like we knew at least 4 or 5 houses in each direction, left to right. We knew at least 4 neighbors across the street. And then in the alleyway, we knew at least 5 or 6, like across the alley as well from us. So in those numbers, that's like, you know what, that's like 12 to 15 different sets of neighbors, right?
And if something happened to you, that's 12 to 15 different sets of people that were invested in what happened to you. Like if there was a car crash, like if you got or hit on your bike on there, that's 12 to 15 people that potentially could see what was happening and have the wherewithal to phone your parents or to phone the ambulance. Because like people nowadays will phone the ambulance, but they don't necessarily know where the kid belongs.
No, they don't. And it's kind of crazy, like how many people now living in their neighborhoods, if I was to walk up to them and say, what's the neighbor to at least, just, nothing complicated, but if I go, can you tell me the names of your neighbors to your left? And can you tell me the names of your neighbors to your right? Probably a lot of people won't even be able to tell you that. The only way that I think people are meeting each other in neighborhoods now is those block parties. You got one really good neighbor, they'll host a block party. Right. Once a year, the neighborhood I grew up in, we had a neighbor that was on the other, just like a couple blocks away, but they had a block party every year, every 2 years for several years. And I always admired that because it was like, at least it was an attempt to get to know the people around you.
Well, even like you look at it, we talk about how much we are consuming entertainment. Like, what do you, like you walk down the block in the evening and what can you see through pretty much any front window? The TV on. And it's just like, well, you think about it. When we were kids, yeah, we had TV, but it was just like, there wasn't that much available, so you spent a lot more time outside doing things.
Well, and it was a luxury too. Like to think way back when, you probably definitely before we were all born, to think that just to have a TV, whoa, like you were like the cool kid on the block, and then, oh wow, this person has a color TV, oh my goodness, now this person's HD. Now it's no longer a luxury. It's like,
oh, what? You mean you don't have a 52-inch TV?
Yeah,
like that's like the minimum you have to have.
Well, the size, like, come on, like this, like,
that's
come on,
that's an appetizer, man. Like you need like 100-inch, and like.
This is like a cookie, like,
It is a cookie. And, and then you even see like, I'm sure you guys might have seen it too, but like they'll have, even in the shower now, you can have like a little digital screen in the glass or a little waterproof screen in the shower. And it's like you really need to be watching TV while you're having a shower. Like, come on.
Or using the porcelain throne.
Or porcelain throne.
Well, I go to the dentist and I get a TV on the ceiling.
Yeah,
which I find so dumb because you can't hear what's going on with it anyways because the tools.
Yeah, but you get fancy, anti-glare glasses. It's pretty great. It's pretty awesome. And they're pretty crystal clear, and you get the mouthwash or the whatever stuff,
Oh yeah, no, it's good. We need to. We need something in front of us to entertain us. It's like.
It's just back to, it's like we need to get back to being okay with putting all the tech away and just sitting down and even staring out the window. I can tell you a little funny story. The other day, like probably about a week ago, I was outside of my apartment and I was with my wife and we were going somewhere. And, we pulled out of the parking lot close to our door. And there's a car and they're about halfway up the parking lot towards the exit and they're stopped. Like the car's running, but they're stopped, right? So I, pull behind them and they weren't moving, right? They weren't moving. So I'm like, okay, they're not moving. Like, are they picking somebody up? Like, what are they doing? Car goes forward and then all of a sudden the car starts to move, goes forward about another 15, 20 feet and stops again. And then I'm like, okay, now there's something weird. There's something going on, right? Of course, pulled right beside, like on the phone. It's just like, you're going to be on your phone, like at least pull over, like, instead of making me sit there and wonder about it.
Well, how dare you? You should have shown more patience.
Yeah,
Like,
you know,
Who are
need to
you
get somewhere?
to
I guess-
interrupt
I
his
guess-
browsing?
I guess I got all the time in the world, and I can sit there for 5 hours, right?
The world doesn't
Yeah, pretty
revolve
much.
around you.
Apparently
How
not.
It
dare
revolves
you.
around that guy.
Yeah, that's apparently true. Yeah.
Well, okay. Can a Christian, is he more or less effective without social media? Would you say? Like, can a Christian just not even have to be on social media? I think we know the answer seems proven. You don't really need social media to be an effective Christian. Does it make you more effective, or?
I would say it makes you. I would say it's an avenue for you to be more effective in your reach, if it's for anything.
Yeah.
Just because, you'll see famous pastor, like you'll see really good pastors on, it's like even Vadi Bakum or something,
Yeah.
like on Facebook. Like, I never would have found out about Vadi Bakum if it wouldn't have been for social media.
Right.
That's where I found out about Vadi
Yeah.
Bakum. He's one of my favorite preachers. A really great guy. He's, totally in, like, just so solid Bible based. He's awesome. Like, just one day, like, I just saw like a video, right? And clicked on and watched him preach, and he just had such a fantastic sermon grounded in the word. I was like, okay, this is a guy that I want to hear about. Like, this is a guy that I want to be sticking with. Like, he's solid. And so I would say, at least in that respect, social media has a use.
I agree with you that social media has a use, but one thing that I'm noticing so much more now is that, and I think social media has attributed this to this much more than any other thing, is that Christians don't think they need to be part of the church, and they're
They
like,
can just
"Oh,
go it alone, right?
yeah, I can get my teaching online," and it's just like,
But Tom, we are the church.
we are the church, and
Yeah.
guess what? If the church isn't like, if we're looking at the church as a big body of Christ, if part of the body is not attached to the rest of the body, guess what? That part dies, or gets sheared off and thrown in the fire, because it's just like teaching is important, because teaching is part of a foundation in which you can do your learning about the Christ. It's where you can get your encouragement to pray, and it's just like, it is a way to ingest the word of God, if the word of God is actually in the message. But, and this is biblical, it was always about community. Christ was so much about building community. I mean, yeah, like, you can actually look at that as the first miracle he did helped the community. Didn't help anybody else. It wasn't necessarily like a crazy thing, like, it was like, dude, it was wine at a wedding.
That's what it was. Water into wine.
Well, he didn't even want to perform the miracle, but his mom said, "No, you help us out here."
Yeah, I guess these guys really need have a good time, So-
Yeah. And so at that point, I'm kind of wondering if there was other miracles, but they weren't recorded, because, like, how would his mom kind of be just like, "Hey, come on, we need this to happen." It's like,
there's so much stuff that's not recorded.
but it's I find it interesting that there's so many different things you can take out of that miracle, but I find it so interesting that it was a community-based miracle. It didn't help anybody. In fact, in some cases, you could say it didn't help people because people got more intoxicated. But it was something that was that improved, quote unquote, improved the community in that immediate surrounding, because people were doing a celebration and he facilitated the continuation of that celebration.
Nathan, Tom, always a pleasure. Thank
Thanks
you
for
so
having
much.
us. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, we'll have to do this more often.